On this Thursday night, another sobering benchmark. 100,000 Canadians have tested positive for COVID-19. We dig into the demographics and the new app aimed at controlling the spread. A former American National Security Advisor takes aim at his old boss.
I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job.
The new book the U.S. president doesn't want you to read. Eradicating Racism, the tragedy that was a catalyst for change in 2 Alberta communities. And she was a voice of reassurance and resilience.
We'll meet again.
Remembering singer Vera Lynn, whose songs of hope span generations.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. It has now been 100 days since the World Health Organization officially declared a pandemic. And tonight, Canada has reached a new threshold in the number of cases. More than 100,000 people have tested positive in Canada for COVID-19. It's data from the hardest hit provinces of Ontario and Quebec that's pushing the caseload up. Ontario reported 173 new infections today and 3 more deaths. More than 8,200 people across Canada are now known to have died from COVID-19. Testing and contact tracing are crucial to stopping the spread. And today, the Prime Minister announced a new smartphone app that will be tested in Ontario. It's designed to notify users if they've come into close contact with someone who has tested positive. But the app is voluntary and will only work if the majority of people use it. We'll have more on that in just a moment. First, Eric Sorensen takes a closer look at the COVID-19 curve in Canada as we approach the middle of 2020.
For the 9th straight day, Nova Scotia reported no new cases of COVID-19. It's now bursting the bubble, allowing groups of up to 10 to gather without physical distancing. But in BC, a new outbreak has been traced from asymptomatic cases at Mission Memorial Hospital to 2 long-term care facilities. It shows as the country opens up, COVID-19 is still lurking. Of the 100,000 cases in the country, more than 87,000 were in Quebec and Ontario. They accounted for the huge surge in April and May. With numbers falling, the national curve has come way down, but not disappeared.
There's going to be a bit of a tightrope walk between opening up the economy, between going about our day-to-day lives with some modifications to really reduce the spread of transmission in community settings.
As we reach 100,000 cases in Canada, COVID-19 affects age groups differently. First, here's the population distribution in the country from age 0 to 19 and then every 20 years, and there are far fewer Canadians aged 80 and over. The number of cases of COVID-19 aligns pretty much with the adult age groups, but there are far fewer cases among children and far more cases for those that are elderly. And look at the number of deaths from COVID-19. For those aged 0 to 19, virtually 0. For working age adults from age 20 to 59, only 3% of the deaths. The numbers rise over the age of 60, and again, as you get above the age of 80, just 4% of the population has 72% of the deaths. But while kids are at lower risk, there's still a risk, and when they go back to school, the virus could begin to spread.
Kids could get this infection and bring it home to their mom and dad, or worse, bring it home to their grandmother or grandfather. I think it's unrealistic that we can build a wall around an older age cohort and protect them while having this infection spread through younger age cohorts. Unfortunately, life doesn't work like that.
To keep the virus from spreading, Ontario plans to roll out mobile testing units at farms with migrant workers, and more widely, the province is set to test a new contact tracing app next month.
A Made in Ontario app will equip the public with a new and innovative tool to alert them when they may have been exposed to COVID-19.
Using the app will be voluntary, but if enough people download it, it would be one more tool to keep COVID-19 in check as the province and the country open up. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
As Eric said, if not enough people download the app, it won't be effective. Here's the simple version of how it works. People who test positive upload their results anonymously to the app called COVID Alert using a temporary code given to them by a healthcare provider. The app would run in the background of your phone, and when your phone gets within range of others with the app, they trade codes and create an encrypted record. If you encounter someone with the app who is positive, you'd receive an alert that you've been exposed and be encouraged to contact local public health authorities. The app will use Bluetooth technology rather than GPS for connecting to other devices in close range. The world is still hoping for a vaccine, and today the World Health Organization says it's optimistic hundreds of millions of doses could be available later this year and 2 billion doses by the end of 2021. The WHO's chief scientist admits there's lots of uncertainty in vaccine development, but about 10 potential vaccine candidates have reached the stage of human clinical trials. Many wealthy countries are already making deals with pharmaceutical companies to order doses. The WHO says it's drawing up plans to help decide who should get the first doses once a vaccine is approved, but it admits it has no way to enforce that.
Should it go only to the countries which have paid for it or are capable of paying for it to cover their own populations, or should it go to protect frontline health workers or the most vulnerable people? So this is something I think the global community needs to discuss.
Now to Canada and politics. The NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's accusation that a Bloc Québécois MP is racist has boiled over into a second day of tense exchanges in Ottawa.
He was asked to leave the House, and I ask once again to not recognize him today.
Today, the Bloc Québécois whip asked the Speaker of the House not to allow Singh to speak during question period. Yesterday, the NDP leader was kicked out of the House of Commons for refusing to apologize for calling the Bloc Québécois House leader a racist. Singh claimed the Bloc MP dismissed an NDP motion calling out systemic racism in the RCMP and used a hand gesture to symbolically bat Singh away. This is what Prime Minister Trudeau said today about Singh's comments.
It is not for me to criticize any Canadian, particularly not the only racialized leader in the House of Commons, for making other people uncomfortable by calling them out for not recognizing systemic discrimination.
Mr. Singh is a good person. I always thought that, and I still think that he somehow dropped the ball. And I hope he will take it back.
Yves-François Blanchet, the Bloc leader, wants Singh to apologize for painting his party as racist, and he says he wishes the Speaker of the House of Commons would respond with a more severe penalty for the NDP leader than a 24-hour suspension. The four contenders for the leadership of the federal Conservative Party face off tonight in a debate. The name of the game is not just to become Tory leader, but to have what it takes to become Prime Minister, and that means defeating Justin Trudeau. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, is in Ottawa tonight. David, are any of these candidates on that path and showing that kind of momentum?
Well, not just yet, Donna, but there are plenty of people in the party who hope that tonight's English language leaders debate is the start of a showcase for the next leader, not just to Conservative partisans, but to a broader audience, to all Canadians who will vote in the next general election.
The leading candidate right now is Peter MacKay, co-founder of the party along with Stephen Harper. He served in Harper's cabinet, but he's been out of politics for 5 years and he wants back in. Ontario MP Erin O'Toole also served in Harper's cabinet. O'Toole ran for leader in 2017, but finished third in the race that Andrew Scheer won. But now O'Toole is nipping at MacKay's heels. Now it appears that neither MacKay nor O'Toole will have enough votes to win the leadership on their own. They're going to need second or third ballot support from the two other candidates. Leslyn Lewis is a Toronto lawyer who has never held office, and Derek Sloan is a first-term Ontario MP. Both Lewis and Sloan are social conservatives and are running as such, Sloan in particular. And that means both MacKay and O'Toole have to appeal to conservative voters who want to address abortion, conversion therapy, right-to-die legislation, and other social conservative issues. But as MacKay himself said after the last election, the party's social conservative bent was the, quote, stinking albatross that held it back from beating Justin Trudeau and the Liberals.
And there's your leadership race theme so far. How does this party square the 20 or 30% of its membership who want to talk about social conservative values with the goal of winning an election when most voters do not think those issues are a top priority? Donna?
All right, David Akin, thank you. The American Supreme Court has blocked President Trump's attempt to cancel an Obama-era program that provided legal protections to unauthorized immigrants who arrived in the U.S. as children. The policy known as DACA protected young undocumented immigrants known as Dreamers from being deported. The policy allows young people raised without legal immigration status to get renewable permits to live and work in the U.S. Nearly 800,000 young people were left in limbo when President Trump rescinded the policy in September of 2017, calling it illegal. Today's Supreme Court ruling called that arbitrary and capricious. The decision blocks the administration from shutting down the program. A man who was once a key figure in Trump's White House is now stabbing him in the back. John Bolton, a former national security advisor, has written a tell-all book. Bolton says Trump is unfit for office. Trump calls him a liar. You get the idea. It's not the first book written by a former insider, and as Jackson Proskow reports, it's not clear what, if any, long-term impact Bolton's book will have.
Once a fixture looming over the shoulder of President Donald Trump, former National Security Advisor John Bolton has little good to say about his ex-boss. In a forthcoming tell-all book, he describes an erratic, stunningly uninformed and unqualified commander-in-chief.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection.
Bolton recounts Trump's willingness to interfere in domestic investigations to please foreign dictators. The pattern looked like obstruction of justice as a way of life, he writes. Bolton also suggests Trump wanted China's help with his re-election campaign, hoping the country would buy more agricultural products to help him win farm states in 2020, matching Trump's own public calls for election interference.
And by the way, likewise, China should start an investigation into the Bidens.
Bolton alleges Trump even endorsed China's mass detention camps for its Muslim minority Uyghur population. Trump said that Xi should go ahead with building the camps, which Trump thought was exactly the right thing to do, he claims.
They fill in the blanks of what we as Americans should all be concerned about with this president.
But the allegations made by Bolton have not endeared him to either side. His silence during Trump's impeachment has enraged many.
John Bolton was in the room. He didn't say anything. He didn't quit. He didn't raise protests. He didn't do any whistleblowing. He didn't go and testify to Congress voluntarily. He was complicit.
Despite having months to review the book, the White House is rushing legal action to block its release, while simultaneously claiming it to be a work of fiction and full of classified information.
This is despicable that he chose to publish this book without fully going through the review process.
Jackson, Bolton seems to have waited to put all his stuff in a book and make money off it. Is it likely to have any lasting impact?
Well, that's the unknown in all of this, Donna. In many ways, what Bolton is saying echoes what we've heard from other ex-administration officials who essentially question Trump's fitness for the job. But at the same time, something about this coming from Bolton has this White House rattled. You can tell that based on the lengths they're going to both discredit and suppress the release of this book. Donna?
Jackson Proskow in Washington, thank you. The goal to erase racism. Coming up, how two Alberta communities are taking action and forging important bonds. Two communities in rural Alberta have decided working together is the best approach to address systemic racism. The Siksika First Nation is just east of Calgary, and most of its members attend school and activities in the neighboring town of Strathmore, which is predominantly white. When tragedy struck both the communities last year, local leaders decided things had to change. Heather Yourex-West explains what happened.
In life, Kristian Ayoungman was a bridge builder. An accomplished traditional dancer, KJ, as he was known by friends and family, was passionate about his culture.
I taught my children to be proud of who they are and where they come from.
But it was his other passion, on the ice, that made KJ so well known beyond the Siksika First Nation as well. So when one night in March of 2019, a young man was shot and killed, both communities gathered to mourn.
It was my boy, and our whole world changed since then.
After two brothers from Strathmore were charged in a young man's death, community leaders began looking at how members of Siksika had been experiencing racism in the neighboring community.
Things get yelled out now and then. There were comments about First Nations people being followed more in some of the stores. as opposed to non-First Nations.
The councils of Siksika and Strathmore began meeting regularly to come up with plans to address systemic anti-Indigenous racism in the town.
A lot of that goes back to just not knowing. You know, a lot of people don't fully understand what took place, you know, in the residential schools. A lot of people don't fully understand the term 60 scoop.
The initiative has also included the local detachment of the RCMP.
They were looking at things like what to do with a person if they were in the detachment, if they were being held overnight, for example, and what to do with the person to ensure that person got home safely back to Siksika Nation.
We're working on, you know, trying to develop some ride-alongs with the RCMP, develop some community watch programs.
The work is still in its early days, but if successful, it's work both leaders feel could be replicated in other communities. And it's work, Melody Ayoungman says, honors her son.
We need something in place where we learn about each other. And this should have began long time ago.
Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Strathmore, Alberta.
A Calgary woman has filed a proposed class action lawsuit against several well-known Canadian cannabis companies for allegedly incorrectly labeling the THC and CBD levels in their products. Aurora and Tilray are among the companies accused of selling products with levels drastically different than advertised. The proposed lawsuit claims many of the cannabis products were sold in containers with plastic bottles or caps that may have degraded the level of potency. Other products may have contained significantly higher amounts than stated, causing unwanted effects. The lawsuit is seeking recovery of money spent on the cannabis products and damages for physical or mental injury. Reducing infant asthma still ahead. The new research helping parents breathe easier.
You're watching Global National.
More than 650 workers at one of Germany's largest meat processing plants have tested positive for COVID-19. The facility was ordered to shut down. Nearby schools have also closed, and about 7,000 people in the area have been put into quarantine. The company says the outbreak could be linked to recent travel by workers after borders started to reopen. A government investigation has been launched to trace what happened. And in China, a public health expert now says a new COVID-19 outbreak in Beijing is under control. 21 new cases were detected today, bringing the total to 158. Most are linked to a sprawling wholesale food market that supplies about 80% of the city's fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, and seafood. New restrictions and increased testing are in place. This is the worst COVID-19 outbreak in Beijing since early February. Canadian research shows childhood asthma rates have fallen, and the drop is attributed to less antibiotic use in babies. The study published in The Lancet found infants given antibiotics face nearly double the risk of asthma by age 5. Researchers in BC analyzed data from about 225,000 kids up to the age of 4 and found every 10% increase in the prescription of antibiotics was linked with a 24% increase in asthma rates. The study suggests careful antibiotic use in children under the age of 1 is important to help preserve the diversity and abundance of healthy gut bacteria, making children less susceptible to developing asthma later in life. Asthma is the most common chronic childhood disease in Canada. Next, the world sings the praises of the late Vera Lynn. There aren't many songs that can cross generations, and not many voices remembered for raising morale and helping heal a nation. Tributes are pouring in for Dame Vera Lynn, who has died at the age of 103. Her music came to life during the Second World War, delivering hope in bleak times, and then spanned the decades. Songs like We'll Meet Again taking on new meaning in the pandemic. Crystal Goomansingh looks back at her extraordinary life.
We'll meet again.
Her voice likened to honey ingested by millions needing to be soothed.
But I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Well, people use the word icon loosely nowadays, but
Dame Vera Lynn was truly an icon.
I just think she had this inner spark that kind of went, don't give up. You know, someone who's still talking about hope for the future when they're 100 has to have an incredible spark within them.
Dame Vera Lynn spent most of her 103 years singing. By 14, she was being booked for parties and events. In her 20s, with her wartime anthem, We'll Meet Again, she became the Force's sweetheart and took to the airwaves every Sunday with the BBC radio show Sincerely Yours.
There's so much we all want to say to you. So much we're saving up for our moments together again.
That sweetness lapped up by the masses. Still, the show had its critics. Some feared it was too mellow and had a drugging effect on men in battle. Her passing has been marked by politicians. Boris Johnson tweeting, her voice will live on to lift the hearts of generations to come. Prince Charles shared old photos. And Captain Tom Moore, beloved in his own right, wrote, she had a huge impact on me in Burma and remained important to me throughout my life. Her songs, movies, and memoirs may have a timestamp in history, but she remained current and connected. That's her with the Spice Girls promoting poppy sales.
Don't you think that you were the original Spice Girl?
Yes, I suppose I was, really, many moons ago.
That smile and spark of Dame Vera Lynn captured countless times on and off the stage. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, London.
And that is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is the sunset over Penticton, BC. Thanks for watching. Robin Gill will be here tomorrow, and I will see you on Sunday for the new reality. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.